It was in one of the surgeries that lasted too long. It was like 6 hours longer than it was supposed to, that I almost bled out. When I was inside of this surgery, my soul came out of my body and I could see everybody in the operating room, the doctors and the nurses, and I was begging them to let me come back in my body. I could also see my mom, who had never been to any surgeries before. She was in the waiting room. It's a funny thing to say that most of us had a point or period in time where you didn't want to be here anymore. You just felt like you didn't want to stay in this realm or reality anymore. And then when that NDE comes, all you can think about is getting back into your body, getting back to the mission, and you feel sorry and you want to say goodbye to all the people that you miss and all the people that you love. While I was in that realm or in that state, it felt like heaven or love, or it was everybody was wearing white or some sort of a robe. That it was like a piano playing. It's kind of like how you visualize, but you feel amazing.
Well, hello, Jonah Rogers. Welcome to the show. I'm truly honored by you joining me and looking forward to our conversation. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic here in the simulation.
Yeah, well, we're going to hear a lot more about that, and I'm feeling fantastic too. And you know, every week we bring you powerful stories about life after death, awakening, and what it means to go beyond the illusion and discover your true self. And if that resonates, you'll love what's coming. Today's guest is Jonah Rogers. You may have seen him as Book of Jonah, as the guy holding the "This is a simulation" sign in places like Times Square, Venice Beach, and, honestly, everywhere. His story arcs from early pattern spotting and synchronicities to a brutal injury and a surgery where he flatlined and watched from above, and then came back lit up with guidance, numbers, and on a mission. So we'll talk about the moment he woke up after the operating room NDE, the binary mantra of 0010110, and what that means, and why he says scripture, surrender, and shadow work all converge in something he calls Christ consciousness. Not a religion, but a state. And we're going to explore free will versus destiny, telepathy, NPCs, and how to live with radical love and discernment in what feels like the Truman Show. So buckle up. This one's going deep. Hey, Jonah, it's a joy to have you here, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's my honor, my pleasure to be here and connect with you on this timeline.
Excellent. The same for me. Now, I am familiar with your story and all this wisdom that you have to share, and I am so excited about capturing this today and having a great dialogue. So I think what we can do is jump into this NDE experiences that you had, a series of them, and a kind of a real powerful one. And after that, we're going to go into, where this really led you in the rest of your life and how it's helping you and how you're helping others.
With near-death experiences, looking back at my life, I've seen that sometimes you die, but you don't really know you died. So before the age of 18, I almost drowned twice in Mexico. Both times I was with my mom on a vacation, got swept away by the current, and then someone was miraculously there to save me. Moving forward throughout life, when I talk a lot about healing ancestral lines, you have to be your ancestors. I overdosed on painkillers in 2010, where I took an amount that nobody should survive. I wasn't trying to unalive myself or anything like that. It's just something that happened. And the next thing you know, I vomited for 24 hours straight. I was in this other realm and popped all the blood vessels in my eyes. I didn't even go to the hospital because I was scared to get in trouble for eating painkillers, which doesn't even make sense. I didn't die. Something changed and shifted in my reality. But the big one happened. I broke my arm at Oktoberfest in 2018 on stage in front of 500 people. After that, it was a spiral fracture, and I had 2 surgeries in Clear Lake, Texas, where both surgeries were botched. The result was I had 2 bone infections that they had never seen in an arm before. My arm was the size of my leg for 6 months, so they wanted to do an extensive surgery, and I had to go to a specialist. And that's whenever they cut me open. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I had basically they had to flush it all out. They cut out 4 inches of bone out of my body, but it was in one of the surgeries that lasted too long. It was like 6 hours longer than it was supposed to, that I almost bled out. When I was inside of this surgery, my soul came out of my body, and I could see everybody in the operating room, the doctors and the nurses, and I was begging them to let me come back in my body. I could also see my mom, who had never been to any surgeries before. She was in the waiting room. And it's a funny thing to say that most of us had a point or period in time where you didn't want to be here anymore. You just felt like you didn't want to stay in this realm or reality anymore. And then when that NDE comes, all you can think about is getting back into your body and getting back to the mission. And you feel sorry and you want to say at least say goodbye to all the people that you miss and all the people that you love. But while I was in that realm or in that state, it felt like heaven or love, or it was, everybody was wearing white or some sort of a robe, that it was like a piano playing. It's like kind of like how you visualize, but you feel amazing. And so from there, after I come out of surgery, I had a knot on the back of my head, like the size of like a softball or something like that. And I'm asking the doctors and nurses what happened to me, because I had surgery on my arm. Why do I have a knot on my head? So, and at some point, by the way, I thought they put a chip in me or something. I'm like, what is going on here? And then, it took about 3 weeks to heal and everything was back to normal. I had a PICC line to my heart. The external fixator, again, is something where you have to turn screws, it's live flesh stretching the bone, that they try to trick your body into growing more bone. But I cried every day. And I almost, in a weird way, felt like I was Jesus being crucified. Not that anybody, would never want to compare the experience. But when you're stretching flesh and bleeding every day and getting infected, I couldn't bathe for 2 years. It was an absolute nightmare. Understanding it now, I understand that when you're healing or you crying or doing these things, you're actually sending out a healing frequency to everyone and everything around you. So it's almost like sacrificing yourself for the greater good. From there, that's whenever the dream started, and the angel numbers and the deja vu and the heart palpitation and getting visited by what I perceived as extraterrestrials or higher dimensional beings. I was not Jonah anymore. I was a version of Jonah that was now on this path to, I want to live the right way. I want to be a leader. It's not that I didn't want to do that before, but you have these ups, these high highs and these low lows where I just couldn't string it together and be the person that I was destined, or I thought I was destined to be. Through that experience, they showed me that I was a Pleiadian starseed, Anunnaki hybrid, that I was not from here, that yes, I was born in a human avatar, but my soul incarnated from somewhere far away. And that also Yeshua, or Jesus, was a Pleiadian starseed, that he was here to connect all 12 dimensions. And I saw myself as the reincarnation of him, Jonah, Moses, all these other biblical characters in this modern day world. That, was I the original person? Does it really matter? If we all aspire to be like Jesus or Yeshua or Moses or these people that were in sacrifice and service to others, it really doesn't matter. But I saw myself, and they let me see the visions and kind of what happened in the past to lead us to this point. So that's kind of how the NDE went. Now from there, I had to try to integrate the experience. Okay, I saw these things and these visions, and all of a sudden I'm attracting all these people in my life, and everywhere I go, people are taking pictures of me. This is pre-social media, where it was like people knew who I was, but I still didn't know who I was. I remember one experience where I went to the car wash. It was like, I don't know, it was like 10:30 in the morning. I was a general manager of a health club. So right down the street, I went, and all of a sudden this Islamic guy gets down and starts kissing my feet. And I'm like, he's like, it is him. And I'm like, okay, I'm not imagining this experience. I know I'm not crazy, but this guy worked at the car wash. Why is he kissing my feet? But these little things these type of things have actually happened around the world, where just strange things where it's like, welcome home, or people knew who I was before I knew who I was. So from there, I didn't know I couldn't work a regular job, because I knew I had to get this message to the world. So I ended up quitting. And, from there, I can think of 1,000 things that have happened that all these things and these downloads coming through and the pandemic happening, it was all a call to action for me to share my journey and testimonial. And also, I know I'm not the only one that had these things happen to them. I know I'm not the only one who remembers who they were from past lives. Now, my mission was to connect the 144,000 or the 12 tribes of 12,000 of Israel. I didn't even know what that was. I'm not even a religious person. Religion wasn't at the forefront of my growing up. I grew up with a single white mom that, obviously I had a black dad that I never met, but it wasn't at the forefront. So here I am saying, okay, spirituality finds me, Christ consciousness finds me. It's been a plethora of things. And then social media ended up being the outlet that I used to try to connect with others.
Well, that is a heck of a journey. I want to back up just one thing and talk about how you broke your arm. You were on stage. You kind of went over that pretty quick. I think it was an arm wrestling contest. Is that right?
I broke it at my parents' restaurant, October the 6th, 2018. It was, I'll never forget that night, because one thing that I didn't say was, even on the way up to the stage, there was like a wind that blew by my ear where I knew life was about to get different. I can't explain it, but it was like a foreshadowing of your life is about to get a whole lot different before I even arm wrestled. It was like, I can't explain it, but it's like energy that showed me.
That's interesting, because a lot of times we all get these intuitions and we don't know necessarily to listen to them or not. We're just not tuned into them. Later in life, we might become well tuned into them and we listen to all of them, most of them at least, but then we can think back when we were younger, oh, I used to feel that or sense that long ago and I completely ignored it. I didn't know what it was. Sounds like that might have been what it was for you. Now, after you're in this contest and your arm breaks in a crazy way and you go in for various surgeries, what happened with the bump on the back of your head?
I don't know what it was. The doctors say they didn't know what it was. But when I tell you I couldn't lay my head on a pillow, there was just a knot that appeared out of nowhere. Now, when we talked before about waking up in an alternate reality, I was pretty sure that either, I don't know if I was in hell, I don't know, because life got really, really strange, but nobody could ever give me a viable explanation as to what the heck happened at the back of my head.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the doctors dropped you on the floor while they were working and they didn't want to admit to it. I mean, certainly it couldn't have been that.
One of the nurses said that maybe the doctor had his elbow dug in the back of because they used a saw. They used an actual saw to saw my bone, a bone saw to cut out for the infected area. So maybe he was propped up or had his elbow in the back of my head. I just know that for that size and what happened, I have no idea what happened.
Oh, I see. But now after that, as you're healing and you had the bone saw and the break and probably some bolts in there and stuff and you were stretching things out, it sounded like you said something interesting, which was that crying, like crying out, is sending out a healing frequency, or is it a request for a healing frequency?
I never had any serious injuries or surgeries before that, but I now know that when you are in pain and it's almost like you're alchemizing it or transmuting it, you're sending out a healing frequency. The same with crying. Crying is like holy water. We are empathic people by nature, and we take on the energy and frequency of everybody and every room that we're in, but we never wring out the towel. I've noticed times in my life where I've been around, whether it be poor areas, homeless areas, where I would get emotional or cry. And I see now, whether it be, again, transmuting or the pain or even emotional pain, you are sending out a healing frequency when you suffer for others.
Interesting. And it could be painful tears. It could be tears of joy. There are those also. But it is universal. Regardless of who you are and wherever you live on the planet, whatever language you speak, the notion of laughter and of tears is universal.
100%. Laughter, anytime you cry or you reach a high level of emotion, it sends out a frequency. That's why a lot of us have been triggered. We're highly emotional people, where when we're mad, we're very mad. When we're sad, we're very sad. When we're happy, we're very happy. Those emotions activate the people around you. And I didn't understand that. It works within a 32-foot radius that people can feel your raw emotion and energy.
Yeah, maybe the sort of electromagnetic field coming out of your heart as well in the toroidal shape. Hey, you also mentioned that Jesus was here, Yeshua was here to connect. I think you said all 12 realms.
When I woke up and I was shown all these things, I was like, okay, how can Jonah Rogers from Galveston, Texas be that important? I know I've had many successes in life, but how could I be that important? How could I be that guy? And it was thing after thing after thing that was shown to me. And so when I got to see the world through Yeshua's eyes, and that the archetype is essentially you are the chosen one. You are the one here to save the world because there's so much negativity, greed, and violence. So many bad things happening here where there is a loosh harvesting going on. So I got to see the world through his eyes and connect the dimensions. And I know that he says even in the Bible it says, I am not of this world. He was not from here, even though we're all in a human avatar. So I kind of got to see, what it felt like to be, on that timeline in Christ consciousness, not Christian, but here in a place of brotherly love and service to others, and not here to judge others.
Right, but we do live in a place that's kind of crazy here. And why don't you expand a bit more on what you were referring to with loosh harvesting?
So what loosh energy is, when you look back at your life and you think about the people who always wanted you to feel sorry for them, like it almost felt like, I don't want to say fake or scripted, but a lot of times people could not get out of the victim mentality. And I'll be honest, I was that person. You look for sympathy because all these hardships you have. The other thing is fear. The people that try to keep us in fear, that's a energy harvest. They feed off of that. When somebody cuts you off in traffic, here's a little example. Somebody cuts you off in traffic and all of a sudden you're flipping them the bird and hitting the horn. You have now fed that person energy. But it works the same thing with jealousy. I've had people that were rich or wealthy at the time that they knew I wasn't in maybe the best position. And it's the same thing where they want you to idolize them or feel like you're so great. Like I'm happy for everybody. But loosh energy is the feeding off energy that basically when we're at a low frequency, they feed off of that. They want our anger. They want you to be angry, and it's like getting a dopamine hit from the frequency that you put out.
Yeah, is it the case that if you're sort of more angry and those ripples head out and make other people sort of more anxious and frustrated and angry and dark and so forth, then that allows those that are trying to control people, it just makes it much easier for them to control people in fear. So if we're spreading fear, we're kind of helping them.
That's the thing. When you really look at the construct that we live in, you talk about the politicians, talk about pastors that tell you you're going to go to hell if you don't do X, Y, Z. They're feeding off your fear. They want you at a low frequency and low vibrations because it's easier for them to stay in power and for them to control you. And then in turn, like you said, you spread it to other people. The fear mongering that I see going on in the world in the spiritual community, it's just out of hand. These doomsday, we're at the end times. Man, how many times have we heard that in our lifetime? Come on, man, come up with a new shtick. And I love everybody, but I'm not going to do the work of the opponent or enemy anymore, even though there technically is an enemy. It isn't an enemy. The enemy is really your shadow side or the mirror of yourself, because you reach a certain timeline where you say there is no enemy. The only enemy is the person that I look at in the mirror that I know. It all comes back to discipline or what we give our energy and attention to.
Well, I think this could be an interesting transition point into this later topic that you have of talking about how this is a simulation. This is the matrix that we're in. And, it seems like over and over, Hollywood shows us movies demonstrating what's going on and how they're controlling us and all this, and we're supposed to be entertained by it. But if you really break it down, a lot of these things actually, you could translate them into the experiences that we're having here. So the notion of the matrix and the fact that we're in this particular simulation, and then we don't know it. And if we knew it, maybe we could manifest joy in our life every single day because we know we have that power to, as opposed to just falling victim to what's on the news every day and being constantly in fear and a low energy, which is not optimal.
The way I describe the simulation is our world, Earth, is a copy or a replica of our real world, except here you mix in violence, negativity, all the things that you have to overcome because those are what activate you to become your higher self. Earth is a school for souls. This is a place that you come to grow and to evolve. The Matrix is the system or the mechanism. It's your own personal, some people consider it a prison, but I consider it now a program tailored to you for you to become your higher self. Again, when you start to wake up, you start to see that everything was a choice before you came. You chose your mom, you chose your dad, you chose the bloodlines according to what you wanted to accomplish this lifetime. If you had a whole lot of trauma, you probably came to heal the bloodline, and things stopped with you. If you were abused as a child, you probably didn't abuse your children. If your family had addicts in your family, you probably overcame addiction. This is how the system and the cycle works. Now, if you didn't have those things happen, it doesn't mean you're not awake in the simulation. Some people had a hell of a tough time the last lifetime, and they said, hey, man, I want the settings a little bit easier this time. I want to reach a different community. I want to be born in a different part of the world. But the simulation, or this video game we live in, as I like to describe it, when you start to have fun with it and when you see the patterns of the people and the friends and everybody that you have, it is one system that's designed for you to overcome and become your highest self. There really is no enemy, right? Collectively, our enemy would be, again, a system that enslaves us, because when you look at artificial intelligence or these things, there's a reason that all these people from the past and these movies like The Terminator and The Matrix, even the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey came out in like 1961 with Arthur C. Clarke, where AI overtook man. That is a very real thing, but I see it more symbolic now. I'm not going to tell you that I won't use artificial intelligence to look up Bible verses, even though it's just a very good research tool to find information fast, because we all love knowledge. But again, in this video game, we are archetypes. We are, like you chose the name Bradley before you came. You have EL in your name for Elohim. You have YE in your first name for Yeshua. I'd be willing to bet that you've probably lived your life in service to others and have a very strong faith or a knowing in what you do. We chose these patterns and we encoded our names and even our birthdays, addresses, telephone numbers, social security numbers. Every single thing you have done has been a pattern and a serial number for what you came to accomplish this lifetime and next lifetime, because time's not linear. It's past, present, future happening at the same time.
Yeah, all now. I love that. Okay, well, so that'd be cool to kind of go into breaking this down by the numbers. But you know what? It'd be nice to share an example, all right? Because there's a lot of folks in this simulation right now that have no idea it's a simulation. They don't really know what it is. They're just living every day, reacting to everything that's happening, deer in the headlights, and then they go to bed and they get up and do it the next day, I guess. Maybe you can sort of illustrate what an example is of a person that has no idea and what their daily life looks like, and then an example of how someone who knows entirely, a full-on knowing that this is a simulation, and because of that, how different their life is. The contrast between those two would really be interesting, not only because people could identify like where they are in all this. Most people listening to this podcast are already pretty awake already. That's kind of why they're here. But they have a lot of folks in their life that are not awake at all, and they don't want to hear this at all, right? So how would you characterize, sort of completely asleep and then mostly awake, and that difference in experiences?
I would see these movies like Free Guy. Here's a movie about everybody here's an NPC, which is a non-player character. And then this one guy wakes up. So I seen, seeing these things until I experienced it, traveling across 34 countries and 40 states the last 4 years, I started to see that somebody named Bill Johnson in California is somebody who he works out 5 days a week at the health club. He loves his wife named Mitzi, but he might have missionary sex once a week, and his favorite meal is meatloaf. And it's just not to knock Bill Johnson, but then I'd be in Germany and I'd meet Ulrich or something, and it was the same pattern. Here's somebody who loves their country, they love their government, which is nothing wrong with that, but they believe everything they're told, and they never color outside the lines. They never question authority. They take on maybe $150,000 in student debt. They get married because this is what everybody else does. They will never buck the system. They will never try anything new, versus the people who have woken up out of the simulation I've met a lot of people with trauma. They were abused as a child. They at some point, probably lost everything, were bankrupt. They, the NDEs. An NPC will never have an NDE. People who've had addiction, like there is something that had to happen to shock your reality. It could be a divorce. Something happened to let you know that you were a main character. Now, you have main characters. The people in your family are not NPCs. Again, NPC background players. You go to an airport and you see, 5,000 people in the same place. Those people are just existing as energy. They are soulless avatars. And I say that not as a place of, it's not a hatred type place. This is just the way our game or our simulation was designed, because you can't go through life alone. So you have these people existing in this as the background. They have every brand on known to man. Again, so the main character comes through, and all of a sudden you have these real experiences in life where, again, I had the NDEs. I've also had my life threatened before the age of 13. That felt very, very real. You have these instances in life where you're different. You're here for a bigger mission. The universe communicates with you very loudly, but the supporting cast of characters would be your family that you can't quite wake up. They know they're probably different too, but they refuse. They love the comfort of knowing, I know when I'm going to get my next check. I know when I'm going to get this. I'm never going to try my own business. I'm never going to go do anything or try, even look at another religion, even look at another medicinal practice or, occultist knowledge or secrets. I'm never even going to, Egypt. I don't want to go there. They won't travel. Most of the time they stay in their community, and they could be amazing people, but they're not designed to wake up this lifetime. Whereas we chose to be here. We chose to wake up this lifetime.
And if that's the case, I would imagine there aren't really 8 billion people on this earthly plane.
No. If you want to do comparisons like movies, The Truman Show is an awesome example of what it's like to be, we all wake up and we're Truman. And, you might have a wife, you might have kids. They might get it a little bit, but nobody's really going to wake up. But in that movie, the population, they say, is between 5 to 10,000. If you did the ratio of Earth saying there's 8 billion people, then that would mean there's either somewhere between 800,000 to 1.6 million Trumans. That's people that could potentially graduate this lifetime. I'm not saying the rest of the people aren't real. I'm just saying you have a lot of people on the evolutionary scale of evolving. They just might not graduate Earth this lifetime.
Yeah, it seems there's a lot of crazy things that we take for granted, like, the whole discussion about whether the Earth is a flat earthly plane with a firmament above, or whether it's actually a round ball hurling through space randomly. You can go back and forth. And by the way, if it's a matrix, it could be both, right? It could be either. It's like whatever I want to experience, I'm going to either have a flat earthly plane or I'm going to go into space and do crazy things. But neither really exists because it's just a simulation and it's just a matrix. So you can't really even argue that point. So, there's a lot of things that are sort of, maybe up to us in this game.
That's the whole thing. One of the great dividers for us is the Earth flat or round. I've done my research. I'm 90% flat, and I will never commit to one side because it's whatever you choose for your experience. In my heart, intuitively, it was shown to me, not what I never saw conspiracy theories, but it was shown to me that we did not land on the moon. So that would imply that we probably do live in a firmament. But I also believe, to deny the existence of the reason I call it flound, by the way, flat and round, flound. And but I believe in hollow earth. I believe I believe obviously in life beyond the ice wall. I believe a little bit of everything is true. But ultimately, they went back in time, and these things were used to divide us, because if you go one way or the other, you sound crazy. If you say the Earth is round and there's no other way, then now you're not even questioning your reality. You're just going with the herd. If you say it's flat and that there's no way it could be round, it's the same thing for me at this time. But I do believe in the existence of other planets. I've heard people say space is fake. Not if to imply that space is fake, how did they use the stars to basically travel thousands of years ago, and they were aligning, and they know where the Pleiades is. None of these things change. The only variables, they even can tell you when the comets are coming. For me, it is a fixed enclosed system. But if you go look at the Yoruba Dogon tribe, okay, they there was a thing. I don't know if you've looked into what's the flower of life. Dadgummit. But they basically, there's a book, and he talks about NASA went to go to the Yoruba tribe in Africa, in Timbuktu, and they have a guy that guards their cave. Like all of the ancient secrets and the star maps and things like that were kept in caves, because they know mankind keeps coming and destroying things, and they don't want you to remember a way to get out of here. So they built up this trust over 10 years to get in the side of the cave to see the cosmic map of the constellations. And they saw Sirius B, and it was more accurate than what NASA had. And so they asked the head of the tribe, they're like, how in the hell do you guys have a map of Sirius B? How do you have this accurate of a depiction when we have instruments and we barely know? And the guy said, the head of the tribe says, you don't really want to know. And NASA said, try me. And he said, well, when we lay down at night, we can fly. They were controlling and consciously astral traveling to different destinations. And they could see that even the Pleiades, only 6 stars are visible. And it's the 7 sisters. They could see all of these things, and they in turn would come down and map it out. So I'm saying all to say, for me, I trust the elders of the natives and the indigenous and these other different tribes around the world that are gatekeeping the secrets versus what we're being told, which I just don't jive with.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's interesting because if you really think that it's a Matrix, I mean, just using the movie Matrix as a model, right? When Keanu Reeves was Mr. Johnson or Tom, whatever his name was, he was full-on Matrix guy, right? Until he was Neo, then he was actually really Neo, and then he connects into the Matrix, and now he's Mr. whatever he is again. And then when he figures out how to run the Matrix, he can fly around and dodge bullets and do all sorts of things because he can bend the rules now, right? But here's the thing. Nothing in the Matrix was ever real. It was all a pure simulation. So you could simulate a flat Earth, you could simulate a round Earth, you could simulate a comet or a planet or this or that. It doesn't simulate all you want. None of it's actually real. None of it is. It's all a dream. It's all a simulation. And so why argue about one thing or the other? Well, we know why. It's to divide people. You want to divide people so that you can control people, and that was that. So now when you're connecting into all this, breaking it all down, I know you can get into gematria codes and other codes and maybe make it mathematical. Like everything's a frequency in this simulation, so it must break down to the numbers.
It does break down to the numbers, but here's my telltale sign that we live in a simulation. Okay. Simulation, Matrix, star seeds, star people, all of these hashtags have over 1 trillion views since the start of the pandemic. Now, the government has never acknowledged or denied either one. Now, think about that. They kick up all these hornets' nests of things that don't really matter. It's like a recycled thing. They could easily debunk it and say no, but you have the smartest people in the world saying, yeah, the chance of this being base reality is about 1 billion to 1. This is definitely a holographic projection. The CIA released documents. You have the Gateway Project, Project Stargate. It's already been released, but people, again, how I know is that people who aren't in tune rejected even the evidence, because that's their way of removing karma is by telling us. They either do it through television, they do it through even the CIA documents, but moving forward, how I started to decode was the numbers. Here I am seeing angel numbers, and I'm like, okay, what does this mean? In the start of the, after my awakening or after the near-death experience, I would see like 1111, like everybody else. It starts somewhere, and then it's like, okay, you're seeing like 3, 4, 5 a day, and you're starting to notice. And then you go to the gas pump, and it lands on 3333. So I wanted to really crack the code on what do these numbers mean. And at some point, I found gematria, which is a Kabbalistic method where letters equal numbers. Numbers hold a frequency, energy. So, for example, my name in Hebrew gematria, Jonah equals 699, and the equivalent to Jonah is Scooby-Doo. Well, I am kind of like a detective. This whole life and decoding reality is really like a whodunit, or like trying to get to the truth. So that matches for me. But basically, you can start to align every person you've ever dated, your full name. It equals a code or a frequency. Now, through this journey through numbers, I looked up my birthday, and okay, I was born April 20th, 1980. Okay. That was the 111th day of the year. 111. Okay, gee, that's interesting. And then my name in Hebrew gematria, Jonah Rogers, equals 1011. Well, we know we don't count the zeros, so there's 111 again. And then I could go all the way back to elementary school. My first elementary school was PT Co Cobras, which equals 444 in gematria. Well, in Hebrew gematria, I'm sorry, in English gematria, 444 equals Jesus and equals Lucifer. So now there's duality. So we all know from common sense that Jesus and Lucifer aren't the same person, but aren't they? Like, it's a frequency. It's about the polarity. It's understand that we are dualistic beings. So a lot of times when people see negative things associated with whatever they're researching, whether it be their name, they just assume that, oh no, that can't be me. I'm only light. But it's understanding that we are batteries, essentially. If you go based on the matrix references, you have positive batteries, you have negative batteries, and it's all really one and the same when you start to break it down.
So you can take all this and start doing the math on your own sort of, names and words and various things like that and see what it shows you for sure. But I would also say, how do we apply that? And so if we are here, and maybe we chose these lives, as we talked about earlier, and we're kind of in a simulation in a matrix, and it's like, we don't have to get too negative about anything. We know we're here for a short period of time, and we're going to have these experiences regardless. And they could even be negative experiences, but just have them, let them wash over you, experience the whole thing, move on, find joy, always have an open heart. So how does the notion of surrendering to these things combined with free will work?
Here's my thing about free will. I don't believe in free will. I believe that you choose everything before you come. The only free will we have is whether I'm going to drink a cup of coffee or not. But ultimately, you're always going to meet exactly who you're supposed to meet in this lifetime, whether that be the love of your life, these soul contracts. You could delay it by 20 years, but you're always going to meet who you're supposed to be. But when you wake up and you start to see we live in a simulation, I know you have people that want to have fun with it. They use things like gematria to beat the sports books, to the bookies, or I've seen people beat the stock market. They're or even trading crypto. There's practical ways and cheat codes and hacks that essentially, when you connect to your higher self, that you can start to somewhat beat this system or beat this game. But all of this leads to, just for me, being a better person. It's being a better person and seeing that your life does have purpose. When you die, you don't die. Like, when you start to really peel back the layers and you say, okay, this is an experience. The worst thing that's going to happen to me is I'm going to reincarnate. Then I'm going to enjoy the experience. When I spent the last 6 months, I spent in Sri Lanka. It is a Buddhist Hindu country. Now, I had never been around Buddhist people. 72% of the population. Sri Lanka is the most, percentage-wise, has the most Buddhists in the world. But Buddha, he cracked the matrix in 500 BC. Nothing is real. He tried, just like Yeshua, he tried to end the suffering. He tried to help people stop reincarnating. Uh, Tesla, he was like energy, frequency, vibration. And then, again, soul contracts, that your mom could be your sister or something in a previous life. So they knew that this reality wasn't real, and reaching nirvana was the goal, and basically, escaping this reality. So knowing that now in this modern day and reincarnating here, it just makes it for a more fun life. It's a more enjoyable experience. My goal has always been to break the system or this game or this simulation, but it doesn't mean we can't have fun doing it. When I look at the world today, you see, you could go into big pharma, you could go into the criminal justice system, you could go into religion, you can go into all these all these different systems are broken. We're throwing a rock in the wind to try to fix one of them. So now we're here to elevate the consciousness of humanity And we're here to create the new or bring in the new or what's next. And how you do that is not through violence or guns or things like that. It's raising your consciousness, raising your frequency, and raising your vibration. And it sends out a ripple effect.
Yes, and that sounds to me like being the best you that you can be, right?
Yep.
And by the way, I have this next section here that I call Heart's First Whisper. And in this section, I ask you a series of questions that I've pre-prepared. And in that, you use your heart to answer, not your mind or your thoughts. What do you think of that?
I love it.
Excellent. Let's do it, man. First one here is when silence speaks, okay? In one sentence, what did the operating room you most want your returning to body you to never forget?
To never forget that my life matters, that I came here for a purpose, and that it's bigger than just me, but that I am love, and that what I'm doing will matter at some point.
Yes. Well, and to keep a focus on that each and every day you get up and before you go to bed is the challenge. So you don't get distracted away and kind of get lost in the matrix. What
Yep.
takes us to number 2, which is the code as prayer. When you repeat 0010110, what felt sense arises beneath the words? And how can a listener touch that without numbers?
That number is it's to activate telepathy. It's like an operator code. If there is there is a coder here, which is your higher self that created a program. That code is letting you know that everything's going to be okay. You're activating telepathic abilities, and that you're aligning with the frequency of others that are in tune with this. Now, how can a listener touch it without the numbers? Is you know the best things that you can ever do are prayer, meditation, and fasting. And that, when I say fasting, that could be semen retention. Obviously, you're fasting from food. Even the negative things that you put in your body will give you the same sensations as saying this number out loud 45 times.
Prayer, fasting, and meditation. So prayer oftentimes is the notion of kind of communicating and asking questions, and maybe meditation is the notion of sitting quietly listening for answers. Those got to go together. And the notion of fasting, I've been listening to a lot of this lately and really thinking about it. Even just 16-hour fasts, where maybe you just eat between noon and 8 p.m. And, that's 8 hours. The other 16 hours, if you don't eat, even that's a 16-hour fast. It allows your body to actually be in a state where it isn't digesting. And in theory, it's going to run around and clean up all the junk that needs to be taken care of. Could be good for your health. If you haven't researched that, I would look into it. That brings us to number 3, a destiny's thread. So name one plot point in your life that proves to you this world is scripted and love, not control.
I will say my origin story. I thought my dad's name was supposed to be Tommy Lee, but it turns out my dad's name was Daryl Johnson, and I didn't find that out until the age of 41. And so it's almost like I've been hidden in plain sight my whole life. And I have like a Moses origin type story that I know I was here for a bigger purpose, not a perfect person, but that all came from love.
Yeah, and that is the best source for sure. Hey, and this takes us into number 4, which is shadow and service. Where did your shadow once protect you, and how do you ask it to serve love today?
A lot of us have been called things like highly emotional or bipolar. A lot of times we protect ourselves from energy that's unsettling to us. A lot of people, we're friendly to everybody. We love everybody. That's why we're here. But a lot of people carry things that they don't know that they carry a frequency. So sometimes we act out of character that is really protecting us until we learn how to manage energy. And how I ask my shadow to serve me in love today is just to continue to evolve, to continue to forgive. The name of this whole game, of this whole matrix and simulation, because it is based on energy, is forgiveness. And it's not just the forgiving, it's forgiving the hardest things that ever happened to you, but it's also forgiving yourself. A lot of times we are here in places of self-hatred because we couldn't get right or be the person that we aspired to be. And so the self-forgiveness and forgiving everyone is the highest love, or the highest frequency you can hit with love.
Nice. I love that. Now, forgiveness is an interesting word for me. I'd love to dig deeper on that one. Let me test my theory on you about this, okay? Mm-hmm. The notion of forgiveness comes around when you've actually judged someone. So I judged them, or their action as bad or this or that. And I held on to that for a long time, and that caused, me suffering probably more than others. And so at some point I decided to forgive them, to release that anger. And maybe it's even, I'm judging myself, like you said a minute ago. And so now I choose to forgive and release the notion of the judgment that I have either on someone else or myself. So I wonder now, is it possible to live in a world of unconditional love where we don't judge others or ourselves? If we found a way to navigate the world in that way, the word forgiveness goes away entirely, because it would never be necessary, because you would never actually judge the actions or a person, whether that be someone else or yourself.
I'm definitely in agreement with you there. If everybody forgave everybody and loved everybody, we would raise the level of consciousness to levels that have never seen before on earth. But forgiveness is, I always have to remind myself that forgiveness isn't for that person. Forgiveness is for you. That the person doesn't, especially like on the flip side, if somebody has wronged you, they might not know that they wronged you, and or that you felt everything so deeply, or tossed and turned at night, and you couldn't get it out of your mind. What you just went through, or the way it made you feel. The things that happened to me in my life, especially my childhood, or things especially later in life being stolen from, it was very tough to forgive. And in the beginning, I knew that you have to advance in levels of on earth, and to unlock levels of consciousness, you have to forgive everything and everyone, even the hardest things that happen to you. So in the beginning, how I will do it was really lying to myself. It was like a mantra where I was going through the motions saying that I forgive, but in reality, I knew in my heart I hadn't forgiven yet. I was still holding on to that animosity. But after a while, you start to see that everything shapes you into the person that you're supposed to be. And I'm appreciative of all the people that hurt me, and I've asked forgiveness for the people that I've hurt in my heart, especially because I know that we're all shaping each other like rocks in the sand. But forgiveness is the most crucial part of this entire journey of not judging people, accepting people where they're at. If you want to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, drink a bottle of whatever, you do whatever you want that makes you happy. I'm here to love you unconditionally, and praying for you to evolve.
Yeah, I love that. So the notion of forgiveness for all sorts of things that have happened in the past, other people, yourself, and then maybe going forward, judging people even less. So you can find yourself in a place where you have to forgive even less because you never judged in the first place, which really takes us right into the next question, number 5, which is Christed living. What's one ordinary act that most embodies Christ consciousness on any random Tuesday?
It could be something as simple as saying hi to someone. I definitely try to make eye contact and say hi to people. I didn't understand that if God was going to come and incarnate in a human body, the actual creator of this whole world, would God come as a rich person, or would God come as somebody not so well to do, like a homeless person? So then when I started to see it that way, I realized that every single person is a version of you on the street. That's your brother, that's your sister, that's you on another timeline. So rather than lie like a lot of us did back in the day, when somebody asked for $1, just give them the dollar. You're giving the money to yourself, and it's just a simple act. That's probably maybe one that's extreme if you're not around homeless people. Again, just uh, being in service to others, offering your help whenever maybe it's not even needed, but offering help to those less fortunate is definitely what Christ would always do. And one really, really big one: praying for your enemies. Pray for the people that have wished harm on you. Pray for the people that maybe don't want to see you succeed. It's a hard thing to do, but that's a part of loving unconditionally. And it's your shadow self in another avatar that's getting you to grow and evolve. And that's when you really truly reach the God frequency.
Oh, that's great advice there. I love that. Praying for really yourself, everyone, certainly your enemies. I mean, just gush that positive energy out. The world is a mirror in many cases. It's going to reflect it right back. Those ripples on the pond, other folks are going to feel that, and it might soften them in ways you hadn't imagined either. But have no expectation. It doesn't matter. It's really for you, not for anyone else. And I also like the notion of, if you run into a homeless person, you may not have any cash to give them. you don't necessarily have to, but you can give them a smile and even a, no thanks, not today, because that's free. And that leaves ripples also, and from the heart. That's an opportunity as well. So, not everybody has unlimited funds to contribute to charities or to homeless people, but I think everybody can definitely contribute a smile anywhere they go. It's going to help you. It's going to help them, everyone. That's so cool. Number 6 is numbers to knowing. Beyond angel numbers, what is a single practice for translating synchronicity into wise action?
So let's just say, for example, there's a certain number that keeps popping up, or biblical names keep popping up. I'll give you an example. When I was in South Africa, a guy let me stay at his apartment for 2 days, and his name was Jethro. Now, I thought that was really funny that a white guy's name was Jethro. Not to say that it was a black name. I don't even know what Jethro is, but it made me think of the Clampets. But in doing research, I saw that Jethro was Moses' father-in-law. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. So the story of you is being told by the people around you. You need to research the names that are in your life on the constant, because there's a story being told about the path that you're walking. And why you even want to do that is maybe it keeps you from avoiding the mistakes of that particular archetype in the past and lets you move forward and past the level.
Aha, got it. Definitely good advice, stuff to think about. And you're right, that Jethro term, the only one I knew is from the Clampets, the Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Right.
Folks that are younger won't know that at all. Look up the Beverly Hillbillies show. A long time ago, it was black and white, and there was a guy, young guy in there named Jethro. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I didn't know the other reference to it that you mentioned as well. Nowadays with, Google search and AI, you can find these things quick, and they're super relevant. So thanks for sharing that. And this takes us to our 7th and final question here, which is the child in the new earth. So speak directly to a 12-year-old who feels different. Here's how to carry your light into a loud world.
Beautiful divine soul and being, you're in for a very enjoyable ride this lifetime. We incarnated here as beings to raise the consciousness and frequency and vibration of the world. It's going to be very easy for you to follow the footsteps of everybody around you because you think that that's the way to go. But you need to find your path. You need to find your truth. It doesn't mean you have to question everything that authority says, but find your truth and find your path and come from a place of compassion and kindness. This journey in life is a never ending, never ever evolving journey to your soul and what your purpose is. And if you treat it that way and you understand, don't be too hard on yourself. Know that you're allowed to have, a bad day, but try not to have bad weeks or bad months. Those energies don't last forever. The highs don't last forever. When you do that and you become a ever evolving truth seeker, that's going to be the way to go. That's going to give you a life that feels fulfilled. Don't be stuck in a box. Don't limit yourself. Everything is at your grasp and fingertips, and just walk the path of the ancestors or what resonates with your soul.
So whether you're having a great day or a horrible day, don't get too high or too low. Don't get stuck in anything in particular. Don't think you'll be there forever, because this too shall pass, essentially. Jonah, man, it's been a great day. Thanks for sharing all the wisdom that you have. If there was any way to sort of encapsulate this into a little summary, a little takeaway, maybe even with a homework assignment, how would you share that with the viewers?
Decode who you are. At least attempt to research all the people that have your birthday. Research your elementary schools and even the mascots. Here's a quick one, but I went back and looked at. I had a cobra, a falcon, a longhorn, and a lion, which were all symbols of Ra, the sun god. So there's a story being told as to who you are and the archetype that you are. And the number one thing that I'll tell anybody is, if you truly want to connect, like I have done plant medicines and I have opened my third eye, but the real connection is fasting. Fasting changed my life. I discovered at the beginning of 2020, I did a 3-day fast because they broke my leg and put did a bone graft and put it in my arm to help, uh, help expedite the bone healing process. But this past in April, I did a 40-day fast. We're told so much about. I did 40 days with water only, that the most I had ever gotten to was 21 days, which was last year when I was in Washington State. But I was in Sri Lanka and I did 40 days water only, and it's very symbolic, as you know. Yeshua, or Jesus, fasted for 40 days. You could say Moses, he was on top of the mountain for 40 days. All these things were codes that were put there. When you stop eating, some people say your real heart chakra is your stomach, because that's your divine connection. But when you stop eating, there will be a message or a code to you. Now, obviously, you want to do it in a way that, check with physicians or these other things. But if you have the ability to, when you break past the 3-day threshold and then the 7-day threshold, you start to grow and grow and grow, and you can feel the cancerous cells leaving your body. You can feel your flesh eating itself and clearing out all those things. But your connection to God or the creator or your higher self is so strong that you get messages and manifestations right away.
Wow. Okay. So fasting benefits are crazy. I didn't know you did 40 days. Now, obviously, you worked up to that. So, like I was talking about, what's probably simple, straightforward for most people is just a 16-hour fast. I'm going to eat between noon and 8. You might even bring that into noon and 6. You could probably pull that one off pretty regularly. And that gives your body probably 18 hours in there. And then you go, okay, I'm going to do a 24-hour. Okay. So around the clock, I might eat at 6 p.m. this day. I'm not going to eat again until 6 p.m. the next. Drink your water, maybe your electrolytes if you feel you need some of those as well. And so that's a 24-hour. That's a 1 day. And then, so let's talk through this. Then from there, can you then go to a 3-day, a 7-day, a 21-day? It's like, how would you progress? It's kind of like when you're running a marathon. You don't run 20 whatever miles the first time out. You work up to it.
Yeah. So how I initially started, again, I was doing an 18-6 fast, intermittent fasting. I made this video where I said, if you want to lose 20 to 25 pounds, only eat between the hours of noon and 6 for 30 days. Obviously you can exercise, that's optional, but no sugar, no alcohol, try to stay away from caffeine, and you'll lose 20 to 25 pounds. And then, so from there, when I did it, and then, like I said, it happened with my arm, I'm like, you know what? Food has always been my weakness. Let's just try it out. So the first time, I didn't do a 1 day or a 2 day. I just went straight to 72 hours. And by hour 36, a day and a half, it's like the devil wanted to leave my body. I was like hangry and like, what is going on? And I was just like, massive headache, and like, it was tough. It was really tough. And then I said, okay, you got to keep going, because, this is, I see that there's something here. Make it to day 3. And I wake up starving. And I said, no, I'm going to push through, and kept going, kept going, kept going. And then you're watching the clock all day, and I get to hour 72, and I'm like, okay, I could keep going. Like, that feeling kind of left. So I get to like maybe hour 74, and in Houston, where I'm from, they have a place called Pappas Barbecue. So my program mind was like, I'm going to go treat myself to something good, because, I didn't eat for 3 days, not knowing that you're supposed to integrate, and, you're supposed to, have liquids and maybe broth to come down. I go get a slab of beef ribs. I get a big baked potato with sour cream cheese and everything. I get a salad with blue cheese. I take one bite and immediately threw up. Like, my body completely rejected the food. And I'm like, are we eating poison? I've never. So your body already starts to change, because we're so used to eating the terrible foods that are being provided to us. We don't even know if places like Whole Foods actually have organic foods. They slap a label on something and you just buy it, and you're like, I don't, at this stage of the junk of the game, I don't really trust anything. But from there, I built myself up. 3 days became very easy. Then it was 7 days. And then, I did 19 days in London 2 years ago, where I started to really push myself to the limits. When I got to about day 8, I had some kind of a Kundalini experience where I was getting a sense of, and an euphoric feeling from my flesh eating itself, like in the middle of the night, like on day 8, where it was just like this high, and I felt like I shot up to a spaceship. That I was on a spaceship, and I kept seeing Denmark, 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 but I was on like the mothership, and I was getting codes or something. So it becomes this experience where you connect to your higher self and you connect to different realms. But the longer you push and you know you're going to be okay, it makes you stronger, because this 40-day fast, when I got to day 20, that was like the real turning point where you're just not hungry, and you feel so good. Your skin's clear. You drop weight, but that's not what you do it for. It's for the spiritual connection. But you start to think you may never eat again. And then I got to day 30. Day 30, I finally added in electrolytes because I knew that my hydration wasn't right. So I started to mix in some, again, I was in Sri Lanka, so I started to mix in some things to combat that. But you know, it's one of those things that it was the hardest thing that I've ever done, but it was the most beneficial thing that I've ever done.
After day 40, how in the world did you feel, and how did you ease back into eating?
I had a group of people that came out to Sri Lanka, and we had a big feast. I did it completely the wrong way. I would never tell people the way that I broke fast, because I knew what to do. It's supposed to take like a 7-day integration where you start with like juices and broths, and then you build your way up, maybe to applesauce and then salads. I jumped right in. They ate that. I won't say the devil in this way, but the matrix is going to test you when you're on a fast. You're going to all of a sudden see food things pop up in your algorithm. It's just going to be blaring in your face. And they truly did eat feasts in front of me when I was there, and I had to watch people eat every day. But you start to become stronger and stronger and stronger, and didn't budge. So I broke it with like lobster and all kind of like, I did it completely the wrong way. Amazing meal. I don't regret it, but I did it the wrong way because it does kind of mess with your metabolism a little bit when you go that long and food sticks on you.
Oh, yeah. Well, 20 days is crazy. 40 days is amazing. So for our viewers, if you haven't done it before, let's start with maybe that 18-hour one, that sort of noon to 6. Imagine that. You get up in the morning, you really just have some water, maybe some electrolytes in it. But then you hold off. You get busy that day, and you really don't eat until noon. And then careful even between noon and 6 about what you eat. Figure it out for yourself, what's most healthy for you. And then see how you feel each day. If you're feeling better, this is pretty good. It's working for you. And then you might even slip past noon and go all the way to 6 p.m. that day. And that's a 24-hour one. Wow, that's pretty cool too. So you can ease into that, see how it feels. It seems like there's a lot of benefits from it. I don't know of any downsides, as long as you monitor yourself and you're getting enough nutrients when you absolutely need them, but certainly enough water. And by the way, healthy water, good, clean, healthy water from a good source. So figure that out. Well, Jonah, thanks, man. It has been a great day, a great podcast. As we wrap things up now, I just want to say thank you. And whether the folks here hear simulation or designed reality or simply God is closer than breath, the invitation is the same. Choose love, refine your attention, and live like it matters. So if Jonah's message resonated, go find him on YouTube. It's, YouTube at Book of Jonah. You're going to find that, a whole ton of other information there. It's great. And, and tell him what pattern cracked open for you today. We'll put all the links down in the description below for sure. And by the way, rattle those links off right now. Where should we be going?
I'm at Book of Jonah on Instagram. I'm at Book of Jonah on Threads. I'm Jonah Rogers on Facebook. And I do have a TikTok page that was my original page when I first started sharing my mission and journey. And it is The Book of Jonah on TikTok.
Check them all out. Click below. You're going to click and go find them. And it's rich, way more information than we could share today. I know he's got a lot of short videos too on YouTube, which you can just snack on just one after another. They go from topic to topic to topic, all these great topics and insightful information that he shares. So thank you, Jonah. It's been a pleasure.
It's been awesome being on here. I truly appreciate you and the work you're doing. This is a part of your mission. I enjoyed myself today, and I would love to do it again sometime.
Beautiful. Well, here we are in the Matrix playing our roles and doing it with love in our hearts. I think that's the way. And to our listeners, if his insights moved you, please subscribe for sure and share. And you know what? Leave a note, leave a comment. I love the comments. I get in there and read them all and reply to them as well. I get so interactive with the folks that leave their footprints on these videos. So if the episode spoke to your heart, pass it along to someone who could use a little light, that's for sure. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go way beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.